Hi, welcome to Hooked on Gingerbread. This is video number 3 in my 2022 Gingerbread series. Today we're going to be talking about how to mold, how to make your own molds. Now there's a lot of commercial molds out there that you can use for your projects. I've used them for flowers. This year I'm going to be using for pearls. I definitely have a go-to one that's half circles. Use it every year. But what happens when you have a project where there's just not a mold out there? Either don't make it or it's not the right size. What do? Well, you make it yourself. So today we're going to be making 2 molds. The dental molding on the building and an air conditioner. Now, there's a lot more molds that I'm going to make for this project, but I think you'd be bored if I showed you every one. If there's a mold that you see me using that you're not quite sure how to make, just stick something in the comment section when you see me using it, and I will show you how to make that mold. But in the meantime, let's get molding. Okay, so the first clay sculpt we're going to do is with the dental molding that's on the building. For the dental molding, you're going to need these tools. The extruder with these extruder discs. The yellow discs are sold separately. You'll need an X-Acto blade, a clay tool, and a square clay cutter. I got these on Etsy. It was from a set. And then this is optional. The oven baked clay adhesive from Sculpt, I find it really helpful, but it's not necessary. I want to tell you about the clay that we're going to be using. This clay is the original Sculpt clay. I think it's called Sculpt, I don't know. It's the original Sculpt, I'll say, clay. And it must be oven baked. It can't be air dried. Now, when you get it out, you're also going to need a knife. I use my X-Acto blade, and I cut what I need off, which is more than this, but I have some on the side that I've already kneaded and stuff. But I want to show you what it looks like when it comes out of the package. It's really hard, so you have to squish it a lot, and it crumbles too. It's really important to have either your cutting mat down, or if you have another mat that's dedicated to clay. I don't like that. I just use one mat and I just clean it really well. But what you're doing is you're kneading this. You have to knead it until, well, it's kind of like Play-Doh. But it's soft and it doesn't have any more lines in it, is where what you're getting to. So I kind of roll it into a snake, and then I just keep doing that until it softens up. See, so it's starting to get soft now. And then once you get it soft like this, you get it into a size that will fit into the extruder. So here's my extruder. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my extruder all the way out. I don't know if there's a technical term for this. I'm going to open it. I'm going to open my extruder all the way up, maybe? Is that what it's called? Now you can flip it around like I do, but actually I've got clay residue in my extruder, so it's a little bit more difficult to flop around. But you open it up until it won't twist anymore if you've never used a clay extruder. And see, it stops. So all you do is just put the clay in. Now there may be another way of doing this, but probably just opening this side up and doing the same thing. Whatever floats your boat. But this is the way I do it. I don't know why. It's kind of like packing ammo back in the day in the Civil War. Like ramrodding it in there. Okay, so I've got it in. And now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the biggest rectangle. This is going to be my base. So what I mean by base is you need to have something for everything to sit on, right? You just can't just start making things, you just putting things on. You have to have a base. So I'm going to extrude more than I need for the mold, because I'm going to make a larger mold than what is required between these two windows, just in case there's windows on the other side that have a bigger span. So I'm going to go right here. Here we go. And try to keep it as straight as possible. It's really hard at first, and I'll start straightening it out as I go. But for now, this is as good as it gets. Now, what I'm using here is Sculpt oven bake clay adhesive. You don't need to use clay adhesive. The clay will stick to itself, believe me. But the reason why I use it is because I don't want to press down at all on the clay. And I want to be as light-handed as I can with it to keep all of the edges and everything straight and not dented. So I just use a little bit of this. It's not a whole lot. I just very sparingly. You don't really want any of it oozing out because it will show up in your mold later. So I just put a little bit on. And now I'm going to put on the, not the top layer, but the second to the top layer. So it would be the secondary layer, I don't know. But going to use this one, the little squares. And this, the reason I do this one second, is because it holds the top piece together. It helps hold the top piece on. Now this one, it has, when you have more than one hole, make sure that you hold your extruder up and down so the clay doesn't stick to itself. I think this is good. And then that. And then I just put this over here to be put back in the extruder. So we've got that. All right. So this piece needs to be as flush with the ends. Try not to push down on it, so it doesn't like dip down, when you cut it. The ends on this piece won't matter so much because you can cut them after you've molded your font. Well, I'm using ginger clay for this, but when you've molded your fondant or your ginger clay or your pastillage, you can always cut it. But what I'm doing now is I'm trying to get it even with the edge. So it looks like it's pretty even. I'm using the medium-sized rectangle. This is going to be the top piece. So I'm just dotting the glue. It's not really, like I said, the clay will adhere to itself somewhat. I just, I'm trying to help it out a bit. Okay, so I need to cut that. Oops. Okay. Well, this is just great. Okay. All right. Trying to give myself a little bit of room here. There we go. So now I'm going to put this piece on top, like so. sandwiching it. That's kind of off there, but like I said, I'm barely touching this. I'm not, and believe me, it bends on its own a lot. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little sandwich here, make me feel a little better about squaring it up. Just try to be as straight as possible. That's all you can do, really. So now I'm going to use my circle. Right, so I'm going to glue. Don't like how that's doing right there. Again, very, very, very small amounts. Very small. If you don't trust yourself, you know, you can always use like a brush or something. I'm going to go ahead and put some glue in the crack here too. Oops. I need to see where my nozzle's going. Just a little bit, just little. Alright, so now I'm going to extrude this guy here, the smaller, not the smallest, but a smaller circle. So I'm going to make it a little longer. Probably didn't make it long enough, but what the heck. I'm going to do, first I'm going to do the corner. That's the lip between the square and the back piece. Yeah, I didn't bring that down good enough, did I? Okay, so like I said, I'm barely touching this. When I cut, I want to lift it a little bit. I don't want this thing going, I don't want the clay going downwards. Here, I'm lifting it a little bit, and then it's still going to go down a little bit, but you just have to try your best, you know. That looks like there's an air bubble in that. So here's this. This is on the top of the back. So what I do here, this is like a bull nose. So you've literally got the back piece and then a circle on top of that, and then the little the square that I put down and a circle on top of that. Okay, here we go. So what I want to do is, I believe I want to take, I think we'll use the base for this. You want, I'm looking for a certain thickness, and I think the base will give it to me. So it's the biggest rectangle, and I'm going to extrude, about this much, not a lot. Alrighty, so see that here. So now I've got this little guy. This is I believe it's called a clay cutter. It's a clay punch. It's a square. It's the red one. They do come in different colors. Different colors dictate the size. Anyway, I'm going to, the reason why I extruded this is because I want them all to be the same height, the same thickness. Now the problem with this is that these little guys stick inside the, stick inside here, right? So for this project, I'm using the flat part of the flat part of a bamboo skewer, because then you can do it. It takes up most of the back end, and it doesn't hurt the end too much. It does hurt it some. It doesn't make it flat. It's not flat anymore on the bottom. So you kind of have to play with it, and that is the bummer of it. You get a really nice square, but it's on the bottom, it's not flush, it's not flat. So You need to watch that. Let me get it on there. Now, if I just touch this, it'll stick. I'm not skewering it. I'm not putting a hole in it. I'm literally just touching it, and it'll stick. This stuff is sticky stuff, more than you'd think. And then I just kind of, like I said, use the flat end. You want to make sure that you're not leaving divots at all in your squares. And there you go, and that's one. I'll make another one and I'll show you how. You have to space them out correctly. You have to space them out evenly, I should say. So I got one of these guys. You can use anything you want. Actually, I think this is kind of too thin. So I'm kind of, dare I say, eyeballing it. This is kind of where I want it to be. And I'm looking, and it looks like, yeah, this can loosely fit in between here. So I guess it's not as bad as I thought. So I'm literally just cutting out squares and then spacing them with this guy once they're in. For the next one, I need to use this little guy. This is another one that I bought. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to make the end a little bigger. Add to the end here. So I'm putting on a little bit of glue. Oops, that wasn't a little bit at all. I'm going to be very mad at myself. So if you do get a lot, you can take a brush or a clay tool of some sort and sort of just, wipe it. Okay. Get my Amazon remote out of there. Alrighty. So now, let's get the end on. And this will come out a little bumpy. So what I like to do is like to stretch it out a little bit and just sort of pet it. Like you'd be petting a mouse or something, just really lightly, kind of takes the bumps out. Maybe if I would have, I guess, extruded it slower, it might have helped. I don't know. But occasionally I get bumps. So I'm going to lightly, actually my bamboo stick might help, lightly press into the end down here of the base. Cut these off to be a little messy. Try to keep your surface though as clean as possible. We don't want any stray clay getting on our masterpiece here. Oh, I'm sorry, I was going to show you this. So I call it the little dash. It's a little guy. I use this one a lot as well. Now, this will come out curly. And sometimes I've even had them spiral on me. Okay, so I'm going to put this on top of the square that I just attached and the base. So it smooths it out. There's no separation. And I am going to cut this piece off here so it's even on both sides with the squares. I just haven't yet. Let's get this out. Again, since it's more than one hole, you want to, especially with these come out funny. You want to be slow at first, and you want to hold your extruder up and down so they don't cling to themselves. Okay, so I got this right here. So we're going to put this right up against our squares, which I'm doing a very bad job of. I don't like to nudge a lot because it makes it bumpy. So to put it. I really feel like I'm forcing this. When you're cutting it, make sure again you don't make it go down. You pull this side up so it doesn't go down on you. Okay. I'm going to keep these little strands because I'm going to make another one down here. But first, I need to do my last string, which is the smallest of the strings. And it's a little dot. It's just really, really tiny. You can barely see it. This, you have to be really patient with it. It takes a while for it to extrude out because it's a little hole. And I don't put a lot of pressure on it at all, because if you put a lot of pressure on it, it'll keep coming out even after you've taken it off. So this little guy here is going to go right up against the one we just did. So next one, we're just going to use these over the same. It was from this one, the 4-hole one. And this is our last one. Yippee skippy. Okay. Whoops. And this will go right on the end, so it's kind of rolling on me. Whoops. See, I went down on that. You do not want that. All right. So this is what I envision the dental mold to look like. This is how I'm going to have it look like. Once you're done with your piece, you take a look at it and make sure it's square the way you want it. Okay. All right, once that's done, we're going to put this in the oven. There's a right way and a wrong way to put it in the oven. I use, for my oven, now you can use foil, you can use, I think, parchment paper. I use a silicone mat that is designated only for clay. You do not want to have this clay on near anything you want to eventually eat from. So with that said, this is my designated sill pad. What I'm going to do is, we don't want to just grab it and throw it on there. You can actually, make your clay on top of one of these. I don't, because I get clay everywhere. That's just the way I am. So what I do is I just gently pick it up and place it on the mat. And I'm looking at it and making sure everything is straight and the way I want it. This is the way I want it to look when it comes out of the oven. Exactly. So once I have that, it's there. Then I get my cookie sheet. I don't touch this. I don't lift this up. All right, you're gonna, because you don't want to distort your clay at all. So I lift this up gently and I slide my cookie sheet, although get this paper out of here. I slide my cookie sheet underneath it and just slide it onto the cookie sheet. Make sure there's no clay on that. And then it goes into the oven. It bakes at 275 for 15 minutes. Okay, we got our dental molding out of the oven. As you can see there's a crease here from, just putting on the different layers. And then there's a crease down here from putting on the different layers. I'm going to fill that in with clay before I mold it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take clay, push it down in there, smooth it out, and then smooth it really good, and I'm going to put it back in the oven for 15 minutes, and then we'll be ready to mold. To smooth the clay out, I'm going to take a really thin, I always get like a thin piece. I guess I could extrude it too, but I like to keep the clay warm in my hands so it will spread better. And I just literally just take it with my fingers and I push into the cracks. Just make sure you get all of it. It's kind of like spackling if you've ever spackled anything. You're just filling it in and you're scraping off any excess. Make sure that you don't get any excess down in here by mistake. All right, now I have all my cracks sealed that I want sealed. And now I'm just going to put it back in the oven for 15 minutes at 275 degrees. Okay, for the air conditioner mold, you're going to need an extruder with these discs, an X-Acto blade, a clay tool with a rubber tip, the oven bake clay adhesive that is optional, but I love it, and a square leather punch. Really anything that is the size of the air conditioner you can use, or a little bit bigger than what you're going to use is fine. Now the air conditioner is actually an air conditioner back, so what you see from the street, which is kind of ugly, but it's a detail that you're going to want, or well, maybe not. I want this detail. The more detail you can put in, the better. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of smoothing out some clay out like this, smushing it. Now this is just going to be the top, the back. You're going to, when I make the air conditioners, I'm going to make a square and then put this grill thing on top of the square. So we're not doing the whole big old air conditioner. I mean, you could if you wanted to. I'm going to flatten it out a bit. Oh, that was, trying to make sure you don't have any lines on your clay. Not that it matters right now, but try not to. So I'm going to take my leather punch tool and make a square. And I think this is too deep, but here we go. Now you're going to want to put some plastic down or something, because you're going to want to move it around. I use an old sandwich bag. You want to keep this as square as possible. Now, this is cut out. This is a window. It looks like a window, right? I cut it out of my my paper pattern, and this is the air conditioner right here. This little guy here. So I'm going to make sure that it's not exactly right. So I want to cut some off. And what I'm doing is I'm just cutting off to make sure it's straight. And I'm just going to cut off maybe, come on, about this much. Go straight down. I'm not going to cut off a whole bunch. And is that even straight? Ugh. I swear. So that's about right. So the first tip I'm going to use is the really tiny little circle one. Okay. I think this is probably the most tedious part of this whole air conditioner business. Right. I'm going to put down a thin layer of my adhesive. Very thin. If I could get it, come on. Those look like blobs, I know, but I'm going to spread it out. So I'm going to spread this out. Oop. Spread. Come on. Okay. It's just enough to be dangerous. So now what I'm going to do is, this is the grill part of the back of the air conditioner. So I'm going to just extrude a big long line. Not enough, not so big that I'm going to lose control over it or anything. I'm going to extrude a long line. And then just going to start, if I can go to the end here, just start laying it down. Go. Let go of me, please. Say, I like to talk to the clay. It seems to help. I don't know. Okay, so I cut it, and then I'm going to do it again. And I'm just going to keep laying it one, just side by side, one after the other. This will give you, this will give you a ribbed look. It'll look like those coils that you see in the air conditioners. I took the coil right to the end. Not sure if you can actually see that or not. The reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to be adding things on top of it, and I want it to be even. So the next tip we're going to, the disc, I should say, I keep saying tip. Disc we're going to use is a square. That on there. This is the one I said that you have to buy separately. Extrude, not that much, I'm guessing. Now, I'm thinking I'm probably going to have to glue this too. I'm really scared about gluing right now because any glue that you get in between those coils will show up. So I'd be really, really careful, but I just want to just put a little bit on. Now see, this is not coming out that well. And, okay, whoop, too much. I just want to be at the very end, the very edge, because I can always smear it, you know. So I take my square. This seems kind of like curly or it's bumpy, so I'm going to take it and just pet it. Nice little clay, nice clay. Just kind of get it straightened out a bit. That side. Okay. And I'm going to put this down right here. I'm not going to cut it on the air conditioner itself. I got some glue on me. Par for the course. I always get something all over me. And then here. And the great thing about the air conditioner is if we kind of make a mistake on the ends or something, we can always sand it. Right, we're going to keep this guy as straight as possible and put him right there on the top. Okay. Whoops. Don't let him tip over like I just did. Okay. And then you're going to put this little guy on the bottom. Just right along the edge. Get there. Let me look at it straight on, make sure it's straight. You don't want a crooked air conditioner. So it looks good. This next piece is not going to be that easy. Okay. Now I have to go down the middle and just, come on, give me a break. Go down the middle, and I'm going to just I'm just going to mark it. I don't want to cut it in the air conditioner. It'll just, it's never worked for me. It'll flatten out. Now you can put glue on the back here. Just a little bit. You don't want it oozing out at all. See, I made it a little bit too long. It's better too long than too short, right? And that is why I did not want to cut it on here. Because you get this clay that just doesn't want to move. Okay, now I got to get this thing straightened out. So you want to make sure that this is straight. This is pressed all the way down, and your edges, this has kind of gotten a little out of hand here. It's gotten a little bent. So you need to straighten up the edges again if you need, well, if you need to. If you're like me, you need to. Okay, so we're going to use our second to smallest circles. This one just likes to stick. I don't know how much I've got left of this. Okay, so I'm going to use the one with the 4 dots in it. Okay, that's more than enough. Make sure again it's up and down so you don't, none of your pieces stick to each other. The extruder's up and down, I should say. Okay, so what we want to do is make the piece of the grill. There's 3 of them going this way. So I want it to be square, so I want to cut that end off. And let's see how it does without glue. So far, so good. I definitely don't, if I can help it, I don't want to put glue on because it will get in between those coils. So you're really kind of cutting this in thirds. You want to get it, and that's another reason why you don't want to glue it down, because you really don't want to figure out the placement of where you're going to put these puppies. No, see that would have been, I'm glad I didn't glue it down. Okay, that's way too, whoop, it got stuck to my finger. How much do I hate that? All right, so let's just cut this up in thirds. I mean, even it out, I should say, not cut it up. We already did that. Get over there. You see why I would mold this? I have to make 7 of these. Can you imagine me doing this by hand for each and every one? First of all, they wouldn't all look the same, which you want. Secondly, this is a real pain. It's a real pain. So now I've got where my other side needs to be. I'm going to cut these. I'm going to cut them short because I want room for my other square piece to go in there. There we be. And I am going to cut my square piece while I'm here. Really want to make sure that you get it in there and everything is straight before you move on. And so I can move my air conditioner around like this. I don't have to pick it up, which is always a good thing. Now I just need to do the same thing to the other side. Okay, so now I've got my air conditioner back and I just need to put it in the oven at 275 for 15 minutes, and then we'll fill in some of the gaps on the edges and sand it down. Okay, we have our air conditioner out of the oven. That sounds kind of odd, but you can kind of, I don't know if you can see it or not. But there are some gaps here that we have to fill in, and there's gaps in the top here. So I'm going to fill those in with clay, and then I'm going to stick it back in the oven for another 15 minutes. Okay, I've got all my cracks filled in, and now I'm going to put it back in the oven where I'll bake for another 15 minutes at 275. Then when we get it out, I'm going to sand it down a bit and we'll be ready to mold it. Okay, the air conditioner is out of the oven again. I do have to sand this down a bit to make it look smoother and more cohesive. And what I do, this is this is for my mouse. It's a 220 grit. I wouldn't go, when it comes to clay, you can put gouges in your clay. So I would go, I wouldn't go under 220 when you're sanding. I'm just going to sand it down just a little bit. All right, the dental molding is out of the oven. Kind of see what it looks like. Now I want to mold it. Today we're going to use the Amazing Mold Putty. There's a lot of different products out there. You can pick and choose whatever you want. This one has done it for me. I don't have any problems with it at all. I like a putty because I don't like working with liquid because I tend to get it all over the place. So this putty comes with 2 canisters, and you have an A and a B. They both you have to get the same amount of each. So what I do is I weigh it, and my scales kind of has a bunch of putty residue on it for some weird reason. So here we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pull out what I think, one of them is heavier than the other, and I can't remember which one it is. We'll figure it out together. So I'm going to make it like a snake. Actually, no. Actually, I'm going to take this back. I want to make just a little, I'm going to make a little bit of putty this time, because all the dents in here, there's a lot of deep indents in this piece, and it's really hard to get, and it's oddly shaped. It's not like it's like high on this end and not on this end. So I really worry about it molding correctly, in one sitting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build on the mold. What that means is I'm going to mold a little bit of it, and then when that dries, I'm going to put some more on it, and it will stick to it. So I think I need maybe less. This is kind of sticky. Maybe it's me. Okay, so we've got 24.247. So on this side, we want the same thing. Oops. Yeah, I think this one weighs more. Nope. It's kind of like a game for me. Can I get it right the first time? 20. No. It doesn't have to be crazy perfect, but I like to get it within a margin of error. There we go. So I gather up all my little goodies here and put my scale off to the side. Now, with this putty, you have to work fast. It'll start solidifying. Man, this is sticky. This is just really odd. It's never this. Maybe I got a weird batch. Okay. It'll start solidifying. Once you put them together, it's going to start solidifying in about 3 minutes or less. So you have to get this completely, get all the white streaks out of this, and then we're going to start pushing it into the small cracks here. We're not going to have it completely covered the first time out because of all the little dents. But we're going to make a start. So here we go. So I'm going to mix them together. And I still have some white streaks, so I'm going to keep going. Doesn't have to be completely perfect, but you want all the white streaks kind of to be dissipated. Is that dissipated? Yeah. Okay. So now I'm going to make it into a snake because it's a long piece. And I'm going to start, oh shoot, I got a piece of clay in there. And the clock's ticking, Susan. Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. You should inspect your piece before you you start with your mold. So you're going to push it in. And I mean really push it in. And keep pushing and pushing. And I've got a little bit too much, but that's okay. So I'm squishing it into all those little cracks. I want to make sure that it really gets in there. Actually, I may just, cut that off. I want to see what I'm doing. Now I have made too much, unfortunately, but it can't be reused. It's one thing I don't like about it. but it's more important for me to get this mold right, and I'll just figure it out next time. I'll be a little more conservative with my molding putty. But yeah, just get it down deep in there. Try not to move your hands. You're just literally just pressing. You don't want to wiggle. Just want to press. You don't want to distort. If you wiggle, you'll distort. It could distort what you're doing, your mold. Okay, I'm going to leave it alone, and I really have a bad tendency. I tend not to leave things alone. Leave things alone. But we're going to wait. I think it's 20 minutes before it kind of solidifies. Okay, my putty is pretty well solidified here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this up. Going to repeat the process. Take guessing is the hardest part. I think you're supposed to take, you kind of just look at it, and ring in the way here. I need a little more. So this needs to be like half of the size of it. So yeah, and you need some wiggle room too, because you don't just want to cover it. You want to give it some cushion underneath, so when you're pushing your gingerbread into it, or your fondant or whatever you're going to use into it, it doesn't bust through the other end. Okay, let's see what we got here. Ah, boo. 65.4. I'm going to, once I combine these, there's no going back. So I want to make sure that everything's ready to go. It looks like it, so let's go for it. Don't freak out if you feel like you're going to run out of time. If you're using it for the first time, just maybe try molding something that's small to begin with, and then work your way up. So now I'm going to press this into the mold, into the molding. And I want to make, oops, forgot this one thing. I definitely suggest you put like a sandwich bag down, because it does stick, and if you want to move it, if you've got other things to mold, like I do, or you want to be able to check on the other side of it, you definitely want to put some plastic down. I don't like cling wrap, just because, yeah, it gets everywhere. A sandwich bag's more my speed. Now this looks like I'm going to need more. I cannot believe this, because this edge is too thin for my taste. It's way too thin. But we're going to check it out and see. You can always fix it afterwards if you see it's if it's just not thick enough on the bottom. Let's try this again. I want this up here to be flat, and yes, you could probably sort of kind of cut it after the fact when it's solidified, but you don't really want to do that, because it pulls and tugs. It's just it feels like rubber, only it's silicone. I see with using the plastic, I can tip it over, take a look at it, make sure nothing's protruding through, and then leave it alone. I will mess and mess and mess sometimes with them, and it ruins them. So just once you get it on and there's no gaps up here, and it looks like you're good here, even if it doesn't look like you're good here, like you see something protruding and you're running out of time, leave it alone, and you can go ahead, let it solidify. You can go ahead and put another coat on top of that. So just take my word for it, because I have ruined many a mold. Okay, with the air conditioner, again, I want to get into all these, I want to see all those little itty bitty coils in there. So I'm going to definitely just get a little bit of, I'm just going to do it in two parts again. I want to get just a little bit. All right, we're going to just work on the grates. Remember, make sure I don't have any white left in my mold putty. And just really push it in. I'm really pushing. Now, I want to reiterate that this putty can be baked in the oven. I think it's up to 400 degrees, and it's food safe, and that's really important for you to note, because if you are going into an all edible gingerbread house competition, you want to be as pure as you can. And definitely, if you're going to eat your gingerbread, oh my goodness, get a food safe mold if you're going to use it. Now we're just going to wait till it solidifies, and then we're going to cover the rest of it, or part of it. So now we're ready to add on to the air conditioner. Yay. I'm just going to do a little bit. I don't want a lot, because I'm not going to make it this thick. Like I said, I'm going to make the square out of ginger clay or gingerbread, and I'm going to just put this coil piece is just going to go on glue it on top of it, or on the side if you want to put it that way. It's not going to be the entire air conditioner. I'm just going to make a little glob like that, and I'm going to just push it in. Like I said, I don't want all of this, a whole lot of this. Actually, trying to get this to be even is going to be quite a little challenge. I guess it doesn't have to be crazy even, but so I'm doing this. It gives this a little cushion on the bottom. It gives me somewhat of a extra bit. You don't want it too thin, because then it'll be really difficult to mold. To pull the piece out without cracking it, etc., etc. All right, so I'm going to leave it alone and let it dry. Okay, so now the mold has solidified, and we're going to see what we got. This is the scary part. So what I do is I gently start pulling it apart. And I mean gently, because you don't want to stretch out the edges just in case something isn't great. And you've got these, I'm doing this gently because you've got those little squares in there that could easily rip off if you pull it too eagerly, if you want, aggressively, like that one here. Come on. You have to kind of talk to it and coax it out. All right. So here it is. I do have some cleaning up to do around here. I will probably use little clippers, little snippers to clean up the squares, but for the most part, this is a really good mold. So yay, it worked. If you have any gaps or anything like that, or if you have any holes, you can use the molding putty to, kind of fill those in. But I don't seem to have anything like that, so I'm good to go. Okay, it looks like our air conditioner is done. I'm going to pull that out and see what that looks like. Please work. It's a lot. It's a lot of detail. Pull, pull, pull. And I lost one inside there. Great. So now I'm going to have to pull this out. It looks like what I can do is I can bend it this way and cut where I want it to go. This looks like it got a, I'll have to look at it. It looks like I missed something here. So I'll have to redo it, I think. What a bummer. But anyway, that's what happens when you work with molds. Sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. And I told you I'd show you the good, bad, and the ugly. I might be able to fix that. I'm not sure. Well, that's it for molding. Next week, we are going to start baking. Until then.